Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum
MashaAllah.
assalam wa rahmatullah.
Today we are joined with our guest. Welcome first to EMP, Expanding Minds podcast,
That's what we're doing, brother.
episode 4. Alhamdulillah, we made it.
Alhamdulillah.
Today we are joined with Ustad Abu Ibrahim Hussein, my brother, and also myself, Ahsan. And today we have Ustad. Should we call you Ustad?
Oh, Ustada, is that what you're going to say?
Ustada.
Is that what you're going to say?
No, not Ustada. Ustad, our brother, our shuyukh, our sheikh, even. Abu Sumayya Afzal.
Wow.
You're my sheikh in my life.
Acha
You may not be a sheikh, but you are my sheikh.
Quite controversial, that is, brother.
MashaAllah.
Anyways,
'Cause
Jazakallah khair
No, you
for
are.
having me on.
You are more in knowledge
No,
than myself.
Good to see you.
yeah, we just ignore it.
Let's
Just
move swiftly on.
leave
Hey,
him
I'm
to
giving you a
himself.
nice
Mumbling in the background
introduction.
there. Yeah.
All right, fine. This is Afzal. Fine.
There's no need for that.
Just trying to give you a nice introduction. So yeah.
That was such a boost, that was, bro.
Alhamdulillah. No. So Jazakallah khair for being with us. We appreciate you coming out and being on the podcast.
It's a pleasure being in your company, Hassan.
Jazakallah
And
khair.
yours, Abu Ibrahim.
Thank you very much. And the pleasure is all mine.
So, recently I've come across an issue going on in the world of sport and athletics.
Quite a sporting person, are you?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I am.
Mashallah.
Thank you. You?
Love your sports.
That mumble didn't fill me with confidence. You just
We
got
played many a game of cricket.
cricket, yeah? I play football, cricket. Anyway, there's become an issue that's come to light in the sporting arena. That the male and female category has now become it's a bit of a grey area, because the transgender people that are transitioning are now becoming part of the two, the male and female. So I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on that.
Well, listen. Allah created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. That's the first thing. Okay.
Let's go straight in.
So
Minute 2.
there's a man and there's a woman.
Yeah.
And there is no third gender.
Mm-hmm.
Not naturally, not biologically.
But if a man wants to become a woman,
If a man wants to become a woman or a woman wants to become a man, this is a simple case of them not being pleased with what Allah has created. They have been created as men or created as women. There's no middle ground. There is no grey area. And I just want to mention one ayah of the Quran where Shaitan, he takes a vow and he says, "Oh Allah, I'm going to mislead most of them and I'm going to whisper to them and I'm going to make them change the creation of Allah."
subhanAllah.
That's what Shaitan fully says, and it's explicitly mentioned in the Quran. They're going to change the khalq Allah, the khalq, the creation of Allah. They're going to change it. So this is nothing more than Iblis, the devil, whispering to these people, putting this in their hearts and them following it out. And I think we were discussing slightly off camera about the swimmer,
Yeah.
you know, so you can tell us more about him. But the point is, men and women, they have strengths and weaknesses which are specific to each gender.
So just briefly, before you go into depth, let me just explain what the situation was with him so people that don't know can understand. So there was a swimmer. He was a man, born man. He was number 250 in the world. Just a nobody in the swimming
Nobody in
world.
the world of
Yeah.
swimming,
And he's
essentially.
overnight decided that I want to become a woman,
Okay.
which he did. So he became a woman.
Well, he didn't become a woman.
So anyway, he now identifies as a woman. We have to
Okay.
use that word.
That's right.
He identifies as a woman.
You should be using the word she then, no?
No, it is more
It.
relevant, yeah. So I'm going to refer to it as it because it's confused. But it's a man. So it has decided to become a woman. He has gone in, or it has gone in, and absolutely thrashed, annihilated the women in swimming. So obviously in swimming, you have to have a big torso, big legs. It's all very, very physical. That's
Okay.
the man. So you were making a point. So I just wanted to set the scene for the brothers and sisters that were listening.
Dave, look, it's clear, right? And the ironic thing is that the Olympic body, the Olympic ruling body, has turned around and gone, no, you can't do that, because you're going to get men transitioning into he-she's, and they're going to go into wrestling, they're going to go into sprinting. Basically,
Boxing.
every single discipline,
It already exists.
men are superior physically. Meaning, when we say superior, we mean stronger, with greater endurance, etc.
Faster, yeah, whatever,
etc.
yeah.
Yeah, more muscular, etc. And that's a biological fact. Nobody can argue with that. So the ironic thing is now even the Olympic ruling body has turned around and gone, actually, no. If you weren't born a man or you didn't go through puberty as a man, then you can't be a man. You can't enter the men's category. And likewise, the same with the women's category. So they are now being forced, because otherwise they can see that it's just going to become a farce, isn't it?
It's funny that it took sport. It took sport to make it obvious and clear that this is just ridiculous.
And look, if I now identify as a penguin, okay, that doesn't make me a penguin.
Are you going to tell me a joke?
No.
Like
Why
the
did the penguin cross the road?
Why?
I can't remember. But anyway, the point is, why, we have to call a spade a spade. I'm not a penguin. I sit here as a person, okay? It doesn't matter what I identify as. You have to, there has to be a level of truth where we stop and say, actually, listen, my friend, you were born a bloke. You are a bloke. If you want to cross-dress and wear high heels and you want to try and develop breasts, etc., and take drugs for that, that's your prerogative. We don't support that. But you will never be a woman because you were not born as a woman. And you can't, it's like synthetically creating a statue, and it talks and it has male sexual organs. They say, this is a man. No, it's not. It's a robot. Do you see what I mean? So we have to stop this whole, respect their right to whatever they want to be called and respect this and respect that. At what stage are we going to stop? Because otherwise I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to say, I identify as a shark. Everyone get off the beach so I can have every beach is a private beach then. And if you don't do that, well then you're not respecting my right to identify as a shark. It gets stupid,
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
do you draw the line?
Abu Sumair, what do you think, brother?
It's a deep one, but also simple at the same time. Simply, I think common sense, logic. We just know what a man is, what a woman is. Biologically, men are created different. Biologically, women are created different. Going back to sport, that's why there is a difference in performance.
Yeah.
Right? And there'll always be that factor. There's many ways to look at this. I mean, I'm surprised that the feminists are not loud enough when it comes to this particular topic, because once again, it's the biological males that are oppressing them. This time in their sport, right?
It'd be interesting to see what the feminists think.
So I've not seen many. There might be, but they've definitely not been loud enough as they have been in the past.
But what I've said online is on my Facebook, whatever, that this is where the freak show it ends, because there is a freak show happening now where it's just
The trouble is,
there's no holds barred, and now it's taken sport when it's people are now thinking, you know what, it's unfair. It could get actually very unsafe in combat sports if a man goes into a ring with a woman.
it already has.
not gonna finish
There's
nicely.
UFC fighters who identify as trans that are beating people up, knocking people to a pulp. It's already happening. There's already sprinters. I mean, it's been going on for a while.
Yeah. But Islamically, how would you look at it then?
Look, this is
Because we are Muslims, and like you say, we have to look at
we,
it.
we,
Islam
we know
doesn't
black and
accept
white.
it
We
black
know
and
black
white.
and white, right?
It's a closed door issue.
Yeah.
There's it's like Islam doesn't accept homosexuality.
Yeah.
But brother, what if somebody says, look, they have their rights and we have to respect them. So we have to respect them within the laws of the land. You don't abuse them physically, verbally. But Islamically, how should we approach them?
That doesn't. Sorry.
I think what I was going to say was I think there is another issue to tackle, and that is the state of people's mental health,
Yeah.
right? Because like Abu Ibrahim mentioned, if we are going to cover the truth, by allowing people to identify as what they want to identify as, where does it stop?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could be a penguin, you could be a shark, you can be a cat, you can be a dog,
But
whatever.
it gets sinister. It can very quickly get sinister.
Listen, we're talking about rights. What if a paedophile says, I have a right to want to have sex with children?
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And biologically, this is the way I am.
Yeah.
Okay? We want to say that homosexuals are born in this way, and I'm in the wrong body. How are you in the wrong body, buddy? Right? How are you in the wrong body? And you can't drive a car till you're 17. You can't get married till you're 18. You're not an adult an adult, we're talking by the definition of the land, until you're 18. There's lots of stuff there's certain films you can't watch until you're 18 years old.
Games you can't
You
play.
can't even buy fireworks.
Right? You can't
Until a
buy
certain
fireworks, you can't buy bladed weapons, etc., etc.
And rightly so, by the way.
And then you're going to tell me that an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old is able to distinguish, like they go through phases, right?
Of course,
If
man.
you've got kids, they go through phases. You give a kid 3 different shirt colors and say, what do you want to wear? The kid's going to melt down deciding what he wants to wear. He can't even make his mind up about that. And then if he has a slightest inkling about, hey, or say something, or he says something that you interpret as being feminine, or he vocalizes something, we now give that child the right, and we support him. Forget support him. We encourage him to change his sex. This is absurd. And it goes back to a simple thing. Where do you take your moral compass from? Where do you take your moral compass from? Because we're in a country now where, let's say 50 or 60 years, being gay was outlawed.
Yeah.
There was a time it was outlawed.
Illegal.
Right? And there was a time when it was frowned upon, and it was, he's camp and he's this, and we don't want to use the phrases, but there were some really derogatory phrases that were used for homosexual people. And look how the moral compass has shifted, where now you utter even something remotely negative, suddenly you're homophobic and you can get into trouble with the law.
Yeah.
Look at how it's come full 360, and it's total, or rather 180, and we're totally in the other direction now, right? So what I'm saying is that what society deems as good is always changing.
Yeah.
But where are we going to draw the line then? Because if that paedophile turns around and says, well, listen, I want my rights.
Yeah.
Well, then how are we going to scientifically, because everything is based around science, apparently, how are we going to scientifically refute that paedophile and say, no, it's not okay for you to have sexual desires towards kids, but when they turn towards 16 or 18, suddenly becomes okay? Do you see? Where do you draw the line? And this is the problem when society draws its moral compass from what people think is okay and what is politically correct. You are on a path to complete and utter destruction.
I wonder what's worse, the person who is delusional or the person who agrees with their delusion. Meaning a person comes and they say, look, I'm a woman. Biologically, I'm a man, but I identify as a woman. And I've been trapped in the body of a man since years and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm a woman. Is that person bad? Or is the person who says, yes, you are a woman, I accept what you're saying, are they worse?
Guys, how many gender pronouns are there now? Like 70 or something. Absolutely absurd.
You know what it is? Because people are now scared to say no, scared to say I don't agree, scared to say, you know what, you can have your opinion, but you know what, I'm happy with the way I am. I'm not happy with the way you are. People are now not happy to say no. I think that is the problem. That's why there is no line drawn anywhere in the sand.
Listen, we have to draw the line here, right?
So let's look at it as Muslims.
We're Muslims.
Yeah.
We don't accept gay rights. We don't accept gay rights.
In what sense?
In the sense that we don't accept that a person can change his or her sex.
That's different to gay.
Or be
Transgender,
homosexual.
you mean?
I think what
Same
Abu
thing.
Ibrahim's saying.
You know,
is
when they're
that
campaigning for
the
gay
entire-
rights,
the
we
entire
want rights, we want this, we want
LGBT.
that. We say no, we don't accept that. Full stop.
Yeah.
Our religion has 2 genders, Our religion teaches us 2 genders. If you come try and comfort with a third, we're not going to support you. We're not going to attack you physically or verbally. We're not going to, we're not going to have this approach to you where we're going to go extreme and things like that. No. But I need to let you know I don't accept that.
Yeah.
I don't need to accept that. You're not going to make me accept that. There's nothing you can do to make me accept that. And I never will accept that. Full stop. My religion doesn't allow it. In fact, Sodom and the Sodomites were destroyed in the Quran. They were a people, we're talking about homosexuals now, okay? Though they were a people who Allah, and in the Bible as well, although we don't take our religion from the Bible, but the point is, in all of the biblical scriptures, they were a people who were destroyed, totally ruined. And if we're talking about it from a natural perspective, I always say to people, you know what would happen if you put all of the gays of the world onto an island? Within 100 years, they'd be dead. And there would be no further gay. Why? Because it's not natural, because homosexual relations do not lead to procreation.
Let's buy an island.
I'd like to buy an island.
And throw them on there.
No.
We'll make them a great life. We'll give them everything.
No, but
One generation, they're gone.
Ultimately, that's their prerogative. But I don't support that.
No, listen, bro. As Muslims, we must know that it's part of our Muslim identity. Again, I go back to it. The Muslim identity upon ourselves and our children is to say it is haram.
And listen, if your kids are in school...
That's what I'm trying to say.
If your kids are in school, stop being such... I call them melt-in-the-middle Muslims. As soon as a little bit of heat turns on, they melt in the middle. Absolute melt, and they just crumble. Like, that lovely melt-in-the-middle cake that you get
we're going to do the nativity.
Dubai.
We're going to do the nativity
right?
this week.
Absolutely. Oh, we're going to do nativity. Oh, you know what?
It's okay, Muhammad. We don't believe in it. You can do it.
No.
I'm sorry. Your name is Muhammad. Act like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The thing is though, we're talking about the general people now. The general state of the Muslims is that they are far from their religion because they are far in knowledge. Therefore they're far in terms of their connection with Allah. It's weak. Iman then becomes weak. People in school, they're doing the nativity and so forth. I'm sure when we were in school, there were certain things that we were doing that we wouldn't let our children do.
Brother,
it comes down to...
You used to go to church.
This guy here.
Expose you here. You have to go. You went to church.
Our father and mother can't write English very well. Well, dad just about write their name. You need a letter, a signed letter.
There we go.
Yeah?
Excuses.
To say that you can't go to church. So, one day... I was about to go to church. My brother said, "What's on for today?" Because we used to go anyway, the school situation.
How old were we?
Primary school.
So like...
Maybe 9, 10, 11. Very young, man.
So you were interested in Christianity at a young age?
Actually, I went to the church once and it was nice in there. Learned a lot.
Did you?
Yeah, looking back, I saw the gold lectern, the pews, all that stuff. I thought, you know what?
See, that's always been scary to me.
So where did you do the
So I didn't actually
Prayer?
go to no, A'udhu Billah. I didn't they used to say the Lord's Prayer, but
did you see the priest?
I saw the priest, and as a young child looking back,
that was a dangerous moment.
I should have been a bit worried because the priests are, let's just say, a bit
Did he stay arm's length away from you?
Yeah, he was up at the top and doing his thing, Lord's Prayer and all that, singing the hymns. I know some of the hymns as well.
Okay, go on. Anyway, carry on. So
anyway, so yeah, I didn't end up going to church because you told me not to go, and I said,
"Hang on, didn't I write you a letter?
You wrote me a fake letter."
How old were you?
I was
2 years older than me,
2
bro.
2 years older than him. So it's alhamdulillah.
No, but like, were you in secondary school or
No,
primary?
I was in primary.
So in primary, you recognize, this is wrong.
In primary, alhamdulillah, I recognized that it was wrong.
No, I knew it was
that
wrong.
My little
but
brother
I
is going to
go,
church.
I couldn't have a letter to get me off.
Now, 1 second. Now, I just want to pause there for a second.
Of course we
now,
knew it was
look
wrong.
at that. Although many of us were not raised in practicing Muslim families.
We were not. We were the total opposite.
But there was part of Islam that we did have. Yeah. Like the behavior aspects, hospitality and so forth.
That's culture though, I think.
No, it comes into culture as well. Yeah, but it's essentially
Islamic,
from the religion.
Yeah.
But look here, you knew, and even I knew at that age that this is not us.
Yeah.
Yeah?
He wanted to go
This
to
is
church,
not
brother.
us.
I did not want to go to church.
Well,
He was there. He told you.
how many other
He saw
siblings
the
do you have?
pews.
I went once, man. No, I think the time I went was for a RE project.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I went.
That's
Yeah,
right.
look, I remember now.
That's right. That's
I
right.
know. No, I always used to go to non-chapel and
Alhamdulillah,
non-chapel.
brother.
All the packages used to be in.
I listen.
It used to be in non-chapel. It was
Anyways,
like anyway.
anyways, the point I was trying to make, yeah,
I
was
could say that because of it, that's where from.
was that
Don't be
at
offended.
least we grew up with some type of identity who
Yeah,
we were. But, you know, maybe we're Muslims, we're Asian, we're Pakistani, whatever it is, yeah.
But taking it back, we had
Now
a Muslim identity.
Yeah,
at least.
these kids now come from families they don't have that.
Look,
They don't have that strong.
They don't even
identity.
have that.
They
Yeah,
don't know who
yeah.
they are.
Yeah, yeah.
If
They
you-
talk exactly like the kuffar. Exactly. The way we used to talk was different. They think, this is the scariest thing, they think exactly in the same way they do.
Yeah, yeah.
How many Muslims now marry later on because of career chasing? Because they don't have big families, because it's going to cost them too much money. Who used to say that before? The kuffar used to say that.
listen.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the bottom line. These kids are like this because Islam starts at home.
Yes.
The mother is primarily the first institution. Okay? If you ruin the first institution and you ruin the home environment, those children will grow up with a watered down link to their religion. Okay? Let's look at it in terms of a link. If the parents have a weak link, the children will be raised with a weaker link to Islam, who in turn they will have a weaker link. Their children will have a weaker link. So I want you to imagine that 2 or 3 generations down, your lineage, if you don't teach your children to uphold Islam and that they're Muslims and that they have a Muslim identity and to be proud of their religion and that Islam is superior to all religions because Allah says that it is the way and that's what we believe. If you don't do that and you don't hold on to your religion, 2 or 3 generations down, that's the end of Islam in your lineage, and the rest, not you personally, but your lineage, and that the rest of your lineage are disbelievers.
When you remove Islam from your life, Allah removes happiness, respect, honor, strength from you.
Is that something that we as Muslims have lost? We seem to be weak, feeble in the eyes of the people here, especially in the UK. I'm thinking about. We seem to be sort of the bottom end of society.
You know, psychologically, if you have a certain opinion of yourself or you carry yourself a certain way, it comes out very clearly to another person. So when you, and anyone will testify to this, that when you speak to somebody who's confident, their confidence comes through straight away. From their handshake to the way they say hello, to the way they make eye contact, to the way that they look, to the way that they walk, they speak, everything is like that. We as Muslims, we don't have that confidence when it comes to our religion. And that comes through. So if we have confidence, it doesn't matter who you meet, they will automatically understand this guy's not ashamed of his religion. This guy is not ashamed to be... And it's not just the confidence, it's the way that you look. You know, we've got men shaving their beards off because they want to fit in. They think that the beard is going to be something which holds them back from their rizq. As if Allah has tied, you know, Allah who provides for the birds in the sky, Allah has tied your rizq, your wealth, your money, everything to the length of your hair on your chin. It's absurd. But because we do that, because we have begun to rely on other than Allah, Allah leaves us to those things. And Allah, Allah said, Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, well, fine, if you are not relying upon me and you're relying on other than me and your trusts and your hope and your desires are linked to these things, here, see what these things can give you. And then that's why we're so wretched as Muslims. As a whole, I'm talking
Generally,
about.
yeah.
You know, that we, are a people, we're not proud of Islam. And we got to teach our children to be proud of Islam. I heard on one podcast, it was a Jewish man, and he was talking about how he was so successful and how he held his religion even though he was successful, blah, blah, blah. He said every morning, my mom, she used to stop us at the door before we walked out the house, And she used to say, listen, you're better than them.
Heavy.
Every morning she used to stop us and say, you are better than them, meaning the non-Jews. And he said, what that gave me in terms of empowering me, in terms of making me feel proud of my religion and holding on to it, can't be put into words. But just like one sentence, you're better than them. That's it. That made that kid feel like a superhero. Right? And we don't do that for our children. And also, how can we expect our kids to be practicing Muslims when we're not practicing Muslims?
Yeah, it's very
This
simple.
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's black and white.
You
That's
know,
where it ends.
I often try and look through a positive lens, and so that requires a person to often turn a blind eye to some of the things that take place. And I do that for my own mental state, because like Abu Ibrahim mentioned, just a word changed this kid's day, which changed his life. I'm not saying that, you overlook things, but what I'm saying is that when I'm meeting Muslims, I'm looking for the good in them. And there's a lot of young brothers who are far from their religion, who are not necessarily shaving their beards because they think that they're not going to get rizq. That's just who they are now. They've adopted a new identity, a new look. But when I'm meeting them brothers, it's very important to say things that penetrate their heart and remind them, your forefather, your people, they're not this person from this country. You come from Abu Bakr. Your forefathers are Umar. Really. These are the people you need to be looking to. Yeah? And this is how they looked. This is how they acted. This is how they earned their living. These were their morals. These were their principles, as a way of empowering them and bringing them back to the religion. Because it was those things that helped me. Look back. It's a little different topic to what Abu Ibrahim was saying, but I do see a lot of young brothers who they you just wish that you could just turn them onto a straight path and they stick at it. But the problem is that through being raised in families who are weak in their religion, they have that weak link, and that it's so visible on them. It's hard to communicate with them sometimes, because they don't want to be Muslim.
It's difficult, man.
Okay, so we started off talking about swimming and sex changes and trannies and all of that stuff.
Trannies, you know.
I want to talk about alcohol, substance abuse, addictions and stuff. And it's linked, because when a person is not in the right frame of mind, then they look for peace, escapism in things which to a normal person who's in the right frame of mind would be like, whoa, what's going on here, right? You want to dress up on a Friday and a Saturday in high heels, and you want to, that's maybe your head's not in the right place. Maybe you're looking for something that you're not finding within society. You want to dress up as a vampire, like what's going on there? You want to take pills and all of that stuff. Okay, so I want to talk about this. If we can move on to this, because I genuinely think that, inshallah, a lot of the Muslim youth, they're not going to try to transition into the opposite gender. I don't think that we're that far gone yet, but
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the youth are finding, or what they think is they're finding, is relief and escapism in drugs, alcohol, and substance abuse in general.
The substance abuse right now amongst young people, stuff like balloons.
Before we get on to this, sorry, I just want to mention an ayah from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that indeed khamar, okay, khamar, and I'm going to leave it at that word, khamar, and gambling, and the slaughtering of animals on stone altars, and seeking the divination by arrows, meaning believing in omens. Okay, all of this is filth from the handiwork of shaitan. So stay away from it in order that you may be successful. This is what our Lord says. Allah mentions 4 things. Okay, khamar, gambling, slaughtering to other than Allah, believing in omens. All of this is from the handiwork of shaitan. Stay away from it in order that you may be successful. Khamar is not translated as alcohol. Khamar does not mean alcohol. Khamar means anything that fogs the mind or clouds the senses or gives you a sense of a high or anything other than that, even if it doesn't lead to drunkenness and complete intoxication. Okay, so khamar includes what you were about to mention. It includes alcohol. It includes shisha. It includes pot, weed, ganja, bud, whatever you want to call it. It includes crack cocaine. It includes heroin, of course. It includes glue sniffing. It includes balloons as well. Okay, so khamar, Allah says, all of this is haram and it's from the handiwork of shaitan, and stay away from it if you want to be successful. Okay, have you guys seen these things now which are going around, these silver containers that seem to be everywhere? Have you seen them?
Yeah,
Son?
yeah. We
The canisters.
yeah, for Jummah we just walked through a park and you can see them there. You see them everywhere, especially in our areas as well.
You know, the youth now, mashed up,
They
subhanallah.
haven't even left balloons. So essentially, if you don't know what a balloon is or balloons are, it's nitrous oxide
Yeah.
in these little canisters,
No.
and now people are getting the bigger canisters because the little ones are anyway too fiddly or too expensive, whatever. And in there is nitrous oxide, and when you inhale that nitrous oxide, it gives you a cooling feeling inside, and it numbs your brain for like 15 seconds. And if you take it the first time, it's called laughing gas. It can be known as laughing gas. It may make you laugh, but if you abuse this nitrous oxide, then there are some serious health implications. Do you want to go into this? The health
I
implications?
think you've been a bit lenient. You said if you abuse it, so it's okay for taking it for 5 minutes.
No, it's not. Definitely not. It's haram in
So
any.
so the abuse is the first of all put it in your body.
Yeah. Of course.
That's abuse there and then.
I mean, if you have a lot
Yeah,
of it,
yeah.
that's what I meant.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. If you have a lot of it, but I think society generally talks about you can do such an action.
No, but let's
But
talk,
don't abuse it.
Let's talk about first people. I want them to understand the health implications of this. Shall I go into it?
So listen, laughing gas, nitrous oxide, NOS, hippie crack, as it's called,
Yeah.
is it, like you said, it gets to your head. Okay, when you're sniffing it or you're inhaling it, that leads to a deficiency in oxygen in the brain. Okay, and there's, you know, we were talking to somebody today who was speaking about how he knows a person who ended up or is in critical care because of this thing where the brain gets starved of oxygen, and then it leads to some crazy stuff. Allah knows best what it is, but basically
People can't walk.
you end up in intensive care. He knows another person who's abused laughing gas, and it causes intense and severe weakness to the bones. This person can't even walk. Has to go to hospital for like a week, 2 weeks at a
Is it
time.
vitamin B21?
B12,
B12.
B12 deficiency. The danger is that
Can't even control his bowels.
yeah, that's what he
That's
said.
the level he's
The
got.
danger is that people think of it as something minor, and they are, they take it and they get this big hit for 15 seconds where like your brain becomes numb, feelings of euphoria. Imagine 15 seconds and you're driving a car
Yeah.
and you go numb for 15 seconds. You lose
can't even
all
imagine it.
orientation. 15 seconds behind the wheel of a car is an eternity almost.
Yeah. And the reason why we are speaking about it is because it's massively on the rise.
Huge.
And especially
Extreme.
these they're just idiots are doing it while they're driving. and they are killing. They are literally crashing. And a firefighter, you mentioned it in your Jummah khutbah, a firefighter who's quite well known in the Birmingham area. He said 8 out of 10 car crashes that he's attending, RTAs, road traffic accidents, are due to intoxicants. But there's a massive rise in this hippie crack that they call it.
That's right.
It's an
Which
extreme.
is a laughing.
And imagine he's a
extreme
firefighter.
He's a
intoxication.
firefighter.
So firefighters don't attend all accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firefighters will only attend when a car's been mangled. It needs cars. You know,
gotta
they need
be
to be
sorted
cut
out,
out,
yeah.
etc. You know, there's serious metal that needs moving. They call the fire brigade and they come with their cutters and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's saying 8 out of 10 serious accidents that he has gone to are as a result of people driving whilst
It's
intoxicated.
massively on the rise.
Not just by the balloons, but you know, smoking marijuana. So they light up their weed, their weed, and you know, their what's it called?
Spliff.
The spliff, and they're driving with their spliff again. And this is what you need to understand. Allah has prohibited these things for a reason, right? When you are taking khamr of all kinds, it's clouding your mind, it's clouding your judgment. It leads to a physical problem, it leads to a problem with your family, and it leads to a problem in your society. As for the physical problem, every single drug has side effects. If you want to talk about people who are smoking bud and they think that it's okay, they're rolling up a spliff 1 a day, 2 a day, whatever it is, and they think and they say, oh brother, there's nothing wrong with it, it's natural. Let me tell you, the amount of people that call me and say, brother, I've got jinn problems. Why have you got jinn problems? What's going on? I hear voices in my head. I'm really, really paranoid. People are coming to try and kill me. X and Y and Z. And I try and fight, and you know, I say, okay.
Do any one of them say, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body?
No, not a single one. But they all come and say, oh, there's jinn, 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 jinn. I say, okay, let's talk about you. Let's get some information about you. Long-term drug abuse, you know, you smoking. Yeah, brother, you know, I did a bit of weed back in the day. Da, 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 da. I said, well, you know, it's well known that one of the side effects of weed is that you get paranoid.
Still
You
doing
hear
it. They
voices
said to you that it's back in the day,
back
but
in
they're
the
still
day,
on it.
and they're still on
Yeah.
it.
So what's the reasons? What's the reason?
What I'm
though?
trying to say here, though, is every single drug, every single one, whether it's alcohol, whether it's you know, weed, we know crack cocaine, all that glue sniffing, you know, every single one has a physical aspect to it and a physical element to it. Then there's the element of honor and dignity. Look at a drunken person walking around, stumbling around like a dog, right? He has lost all honor, all dignity. She's wetting herself. She's vomiting all over herself. She doesn't remember what's happening, woken up, don't know where I am. You know, like the dignity and the honor has gone. Then you look at the man or the person who comes back drunk, usually the man, and he gets into an argument with his wife when he gets back home. He beats her black and blue. He's affected his kids, you know, he becomes an alcoholic. He spends all of his money on this. It's not just alcohol. He becomes addicted to balloons and all of this. And everything in that family gets ruined and trashed because of that drug. Then you look at society. Look at what the crime rate and all of this. In other words, Allah has prohibited it because the harms massively outweigh any particular potential benefit. Right? And Allah has said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have indeed raised and honored the children of Adam.
And drugs do the exact opposite.
And our people, we are finding ways to humiliate ourselves. We've all seen it. Do you remember we were in the car the other day and there was a guy and he was driving, you know, like crazy. He didn't have a fast car. We were in the M8, so it wasn't a race. The guy was right up our backside. I looked in the mirror. And what was he sniffing on? Balloons.
Unreal.
Balloons.
Unreal.
And it's everywhere.
And it's not only affecting them. If you're doing those balloons and you're driving, it only takes, like you say, one of those 15 seconds to kill a woman and her children walking on the side of the road. It takes one of those 15 seconds. We know quite a well-known brother from Birmingham that's now in intensive care. SubhanAllah, may Allah give him shifa.
Ameen.
These people are just on all sorts of stuff and they're driving. So
the point is,
Don't harm
why
others.
should somebody else
that's the
die?
point.
If you're so intent on driving whilst under the influence of alcohol or drugs or any of this, It's a matter of time. It's a ticking time bomb. You will kill somebody. Why should somebody else who's not related to what you're doing die because of your actions? Why? Yeah.
So-
And you know, you need to understand a car is a murder weapon. A car is a bomb waiting to go off. It's a ton and a half of metal, which if you mistreat it, it's going to hit something. And when a ton and a half of something hits something else, it's never good. There's not going to be survivors.
Understood. So, look, I just want to now speak about the brothers and sisters that may have gone far into this. They are now addicted. They're at a point where they've been doing it for many years. Maybe their friends are doing it, their family did it. They are now addicted. So let's just say, let's use alcohol. You're an alcoholic. You're going to these AA meetings, and how should a Muslim...
Okay, sorry, for anyone who doesn't know what AA...
Alcohol Anonymous.
Okay.
One of those where you go in and you talk about your problems. It's like therapy. Just an example. That's how deep you are into this situation. How, as Muslims, would you advise them to get help and to go about getting themselves out of that addiction?
Okay.
That'll open the floor to both of you.
Tfaddal.
Sheikh first.
The companions were a society which was steeped, or they were in a society which was steeped in alcohol abuse. Steeped in alcohol abuse. They used to drink wine like it was an integral part of society. When the command to stay away and stop drinking alcohol came, the companions narrate that the streets were flowing with alcohol. Okay? So how is it that a people who were so invested in alcohol, if the streets were flowing with alcohol, you can imagine how much there was. How is it that a people who were so invested in alcohol, one command came, bang, alcohol is flowing through the streets. They're pouring it away willingly.
But we're not the companions.
No, but we're not the companions.
We don't have
however,
revelation amongst us. We don't have the Prophet ﷺ amongst us.
Agreed, Sallallahu. But the point is, what was it that helped them to do that? What helped them to do that was their connection to Allah, their willingness and their aim and their objective. I want to seek the pleasure of Allah. Okay? It is, of course, assumed that there would have been those people from amongst them who at that time they were addicted to alcohol. But they managed to overcome that because it was the love of Allah and the fear of Allah which led them over that. Now, I'm not saying that we just pray a little bit and we make a bit of dua, we're going to overcome our addictions. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that the central core tenet which will allow a person to overcome everything is love of Allah, love of the Prophet ﷺ, and connection with Allah. That's the core tenet. It's the thing which led the companions that when, you know, like when arrows were coming down from the sky, blotting out the sun, there's that many arrows. Every fiber of your being is saying, run. Every fiber of your being is saying, get out of this place. Those arrows are coming down. If one hits you, you're dead. What made them overcome that was love of Allah, love of His Messenger. They would stand in front of the Prophet ﷺ and shield him with their chests. So what I'm trying to say is, every fiber of your being is telling you one thing, but your iman can overcome that. But your iman has to be strong. So my first advice to the brothers and the sisters who may be affected is your strongest support is Allah. So you have to come back to Allah. But I'm not saying that there are not other things that we shouldn't do. I'll leave Afzal to add to that. If you have anything.
Yeah. What can I add after
Just some...
after Ustad has spoken?
no, but just some more practical
I
steps.
think, look, most people do...
Not that that's not practical,
Yeah.
but that's
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I know
you know what I mean.
Most people do intoxicants.
Can I just say, if somebody says that's not practical, that's 80% of the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
That approach of theirs where they say, what, you just want me to make dua? That's not practical. That's part of the issue,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you don't see that as practical.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say for most people, but I'm gonna rephrase that. When you talk to a lot of people as to why they, drink or smoke or doing stupid stuff like balloons, they just want to have a good time.
Mm.
So it's identifying the search for happiness. Number one, they need to know that there are other ways in which you can have a good time and not hurt yourself, not hurt society, not hurt your own self-respect and the respect of your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are many ways to have fun. When I was around about 18, there was a group, we used to have a big group of lads. But within that group, there were some people who used to drink, some people who used to smoke. Alhamdulillah, Allah saved me from that. And there was a few of us who united on that. He said, we're not going to smoke, even cigarettes, and we're not going to drink. And I remember going to the petrol station, getting Red Bull. We were just going out of town, get some food. And we were, drinking our drinks and having jokes and banter and saying, look, we openly said this, we can have fun without getting high,
100%.
without getting drunk.
Key point, bro.
And I remember till this day how happy I was,
Alhamdulillah.
because, you're young, everything's funny at that time.
Yeah.
So you can have fun in a halal way, in many ways that are not going to harm anyone or lead to addiction or anything like this. You don't need intoxicants to have fun. Simple as that. Number two, which is tied into this having fun, is the people you're having fun with. Yeah, it's your friends. Your friend circle sucks. It stinks. That ain't really your friend. My mom taught me a very important lesson when I was a kid, and I mean a kid. She used to send us to the madrasa, which I hated going to at that time. But she said one thing. She said that your friend who says to you, let's go to the masjid, that's your true friend. The friend that doesn't remind you to go to the masjid, that's not your friend.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And often in the back of my head, I would see, because you want to know if this brother's a good heart or not, so forth. Those who made the recommendation to go to the masjid, they're people who I even speak to today.
Yeah.
And I respected their friendship. And you know what? They never, ever recommended to me to have fun in a bottle or in a spliff and so forth.
But
So your friend circle is key.
And I think tied to that, that's, mashallah, jazakallah khair. The addict, the one who's now gone past that stage, and we were just mentioning about the addicts as well. That is also a key point about your friends, because they are the ones that you're going to socialize with. They are the ones that you should confide in and say, you know what, bro, I've got this problem. If they are good brothers, they will try and help you. They will try and speak to you, advise you, try and get you help. Because sometimes you are so deep in that slumber and in that negativity that you don't have the ability mentally to get out of that.
Can I just say one thing? And I'm saying this to my young brothers and even sisters. The person that you're having a session with, that's not really your friend. You know where the proof is? And you see this often. When you have a group of friends that smoke together, because the smokers are always together, and the drinkers are always together, and the crackheads are always together. The moment Allah guides one of them away from that, the rest don't want to know. If they were truly friends,
associates, right?
Yeah, they're just associates. Yet, bro, for years, day and night, they're together, eating together, in each other's houses, in the back of the car, whatever. They're together, they're connected. But the moment Allah guides one of them away, all of a sudden they don't chill together no more that much. If he was a true friend, he would say, I'm leaving this as well. I'm leaving this because you know what? My friendship with you is worth more.
Yeah.
But the reality is they're not really your friends. So the people you're trying to have a good time with, they don't really care about you.
So if somebody is now addicted, taking it back, and they're alone, what would you say to them?
First thing I would say is come to the masjid. what we have to understand is, even if you're addicted, it takes from you discipline. It takes from you effort. People want like a one size fits all. I do this and you're going to get better. No, it's a struggle, right? You became an addict over a period of time. Do you think you're going to stop that addiction overnight? No, it's a struggle. You're going to relapse. You're going to make mistakes, etc. Come to the masjid, and that's where the masjid is where it is. No one's going to judge you and all of that stuff. Honestly, it's not. I gave a khutbah on Friday about alcohol and balloons and all of this, and good brother, lovely looking guy, came up to me. Like, when I say lovely looking, he was warm, welcoming in his demeanor, and he had tears in his eyes. He'd clearly been crying, and he said, what you've said took me back to my past. Allah knows best. Was he dealing or was he using? Allah knows best. But the point is, and this is important, every sinner has a future, right? You have a future, and every one of us has a past. Every one of us has made mistakes. But if you make tawbah, you have a good future in front of you. So practically, come to the masjid. Go to Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no harm in a Muslim going to these places, but it shouldn't be just you exposing your sins. If there's something where you're gonna talk, because a Muslim's not allowed to expose his sins. If you can go and we're not like the Christians. Oh, Father, last night I sinned. He says, "Come here, my boy, let me touch you." No, none of that. If you go,
He doesn't say that, by the way.
I don't think he says
He
that.
says Jesus has forgiven you.
no, but it depends on your age, right? If you're under 10, you say, "Come here, let me
I
touch
don't
you."
think it quite
Right?
works like that. Yeah, but it works in the back door, yeah.
Maybe.
I don't think they're open, you say that.
Back door?
Yeah. Believe it.
Anyway, so
carry on.
as I was saying, so
I didn't catch the whole sentence.
You just relax.
Sorry.
I think you heard what you
carry
wanted
on.
to hear, perhaps. So anyway, the point was that you can go to these places, Alcoholics Anonymous, if speaking to them, if they give you practical tips and stuff, no problem whatsoever, right? No problem whatsoever. Another thing I've mentioned, go to the masjid. Another thing, and I say this to the person who, inshallah, can afford it, I don't see a better place for you to go than to perform Umrah
Yeah.
or make Hajj. Because what you need at the moment, you're stuck in a rut a little bit. What you need is an injection. What you need is a bit of a push. I don't see a better place for a person who's struggling than to go to Umrah. If you can't afford it, go to the masjid. Because the salah, you have a masjid close to you. The salah is being established 5 times a day. That's where you're going to find peace and tranquility, right? Another thing is, as you brothers have mentioned, is look at your friends, examine your circle of friends, okay? And the fact that you've known somebody for 15 years, that doesn't mean that he's your friend now. People change, we grow, we evolve as personalities and etc. So just because you've known your boys from 15 years doesn't mean you need to tie them around your neck for the rest of your life. You need to be strong enough to stand up and say, you know what? No, you're ruining my life. You're calling me to do haram. You're inviting me to do haram. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And listen, and we were speaking about this earlier. I went through a period in my life, I'm sure you did in your life, you as well perhaps, where you were a loner. You were moving from your old friends and you were making new friends.
Yeah.
You were moving from those people who were calling you to hell, or they were encouraging you to do things that were going to be bad for you, and you were leaving them. You left it for the sake of Allah, and Allah replaced them with better. And if you don't want to do that, I just want to read one ayah from the Quran, or a couple of verses. يَوْمَ يَعَدُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. There's going to come a time when the oppressor, Allah says, he's going to bite. This is from the Quran. He's going to bite on his hands. And he's going to say, woe to me, I wish I would have followed the path of the messenger. The path of the messenger is not just the path that you read in the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. It's the path of the people in your life who are trying to call you to that way. Because they are the representatives of the messenger here. They're calling you to the way of the messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So their way that they're calling you to is the way of the messenger Okay, and then he's gonna say, "Ya waylata laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila." He's gonna say, and this is while he's biting on his hands out of regret. He says, woe to me! I wish I didn't take such and such as a friend. There's gonna come a day where you are gonna name those people and you're gonna say, I wish I didn't take him as a friend. I wish I didn't take you as a friend.
My dear brothers and sisters, if you're listening and your friends are pulling you down, why are you holding on to them so badly? If they are such a negative influence upon you, just get rid of them. Just say, you know what, bro, I don't agree with this. Don't be a bloody Nancy boy and just sit there and be like, yeah, it's okay. You do you, I'll do me, but it's all right. We'll still be best friends. Because if you don't agree with him doing balloons and driving the car, you're gonna sit in the passenger seat. It's the same thing with your religion. Are you gonna throw away and put your religion in danger, your deen in danger? I don't think you should do that. As friends, like the Prophet ﷺ said, you are on the religion of your friend. So I think a key issue that we should take away from this is, look, I'll give you my example. It's exactly the same as yours. My friends were indulged in, we used to go out and I didn't used to do it, alhamdulillah, but there was, not substances, there was a bit of weed and drinking and stuff like that. And even at the time, I didn't like it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to stay away from that. So there was already this divide happening. And then I went on Hajj at a young age. I think I was 19 or 20. And when I came back, I cut everyone off. And like you say, it was a very difficult time.
You get those calls. Are you coming out tonight?
Yeah.
You get those calls. And once they
3-4
realize,
days after you're back from Hajj, link up. And you're just like, I know what you're going to be doing. As soon as I jump in your car, music's going to be on. As soon as I jump in your car, I can smell the alcohol. I can smell the weed. It is a tough, and it was a very tough time.
Listen to me. You say no once or twice, they move on and find somebody else.
The phone stops ringing.
Yeah. And look how stupid these we are. These are people who we say it once or twice, the phone stops ringing, and we think, this person's my best friend. This person's got my back. You know, when the rubbish hits the fan, these are the first people to run away and leave you all alone. All alone. And that's what that brother was saying, that firefighter. He was saying, listen, you think these are your boys? You're going to drive and you're going to have an accident. These are the first guys who are going to run from the scene, and they're going to leave you trapped where they're not even going to take the time to try and get you out the car. They're going to leave you trapped with that steering wheel buried in your chest, your rib cage collapsed, your diaphragm, your lungs punctured. They're going to leave you like that, and they're going to run. They're going to leave you crying, saying, help, 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 like a dog, right? Bleeding out everywhere, and they're going to run. I tell you what, they're not even going to call 999 for you, mate.
No.
They're not even going to call the services for you.
At that moment, it's all nafsi.
Myself.
Yeah. I need to get away. Yeah. No one can know I'm here.
Think about why these guys so beloved to me. Why are they my friends? Why do I love them so much? Like, you've made them your everything, and to them, you're nothing.
And it was all, that friendship was all based on haram at the time. All you talked about and you thought about was girls, clubs, holidays. It wasn't based upon Islam, Allah, Salah, going to talks together, eating out, and going to, traveling to seek knowledge or anything like that. It was all based upon haram. So then, are they really your friends?
They're not your friends. They're your enemies in reality, right? Because they're pulling you towards the hellfire.
Yeah.
They're your enemies in reality.
But I'm not saying don't just close the door on them fully. If you take practical steps to become a better Muslim, still advise them. Say to them, look, what you're doing is wrong, my bro, my sister. What you're doing is wrong. Let's go to the masjid.
Every relationship is one of two. Either you're calling that person to your way, or they're calling you to their way. So if you have these friends who are not practicing, but you are going with them, or you're in touch with them, you can't go to the club and say, I'm trying to give them dawah, right? Yeah. Or try and call them my way.
But also just totally cutting them off.
It depends on person to person. Everyone's on a different
You
level.
have your own personality.
If you're that weak, cut them off.
Yeah.
Until you become strong to reach out and say, come to the masjid.
Yeah.
But isn't it amazing?
That can take years.
It could take decades. Isn't it amazing though? Out of all the places that we go to as human beings, and we know where we go because we're always uploading pictures, Allah chose specifically The masajid. Isn't it amazing how Allah specifically chose the masajid, right, and favored that place over every other place? That's the place where you find happiness, tranquility, and we're talking about friends. That is the place you will find your new friends who are really your friends. The biggest thing you can do for your friend is when he dies, pray over him. Pray over him. Most of these guys here, that they think that they're boys. If someone was to die, there's a death in my city. 17-year-old boy. I'm not sure how he died, but 17-year-old boy. The masjid was packed with youngsters. Half of them didn't know what they were doing. But the friend you make in from the masjid, if you make that connection, maybe you start going to classes, he's going to know what to pray over you. He's not going to know what to do, what not to do.
It's a friend that benefits you.
Exactly. It's a friend that benefits you, not just while you're alive, but most importantly, when you are gone. Because when you are gone, you are left with one message that circulates and one comment that keeps repeating itself. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are sad to announce the death of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the nephew of so-and-so. And every reply is, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That is the same reply. That's what you're left with. Now, some people will just utter it, but there'll be other people who remember you for the good that you helped them with, for how you used to go together to Salah and remind each other of good, how you should protect each other from falling into evil, how you should lift each other up when you were weak. And that person will raise his hands and ask Allah, Ya Allah, have mercy on him. And we know from the hadith that there will be a group of people who will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah. They will see their brothers who are destined for the hellfire. And they will plead and argue with Allah.
Argue in front of Allah.
Can you imagine that? Who are we to argue with Allah?
No, I think we not argue with Allah. Argue
in front of Allah.
And argue the case of their brothers.
But my point is that who are we to do that on that day? On that day. But look at the Prophet ﷺ where he mentions some reasons. They used to pray with us. They used to fast with us. So the Prophet ﷺ mentions these good actions of worship.
Not that we used to go out and with the boys and
Not that we used to party together or he had my back or whenever there's a fight, I could always ring him. Yeah, okay, that's a good action to have. But most importantly, we used to pray together. Attend the masjid together.
A lot of these youth, they have problems, they have worries, they have stress. They might have grown up in a broken home. They've maybe had problems with their own families or problems at work, whatever. They do a lot of the abuse of substances because they want to get rid of these problems and they want to wash away the sorrow and things like this. Drinking away or trying to drink away a problem is going to bring with it 1,000 more problems. And what you have to see is that taking in a substance which gives you a quick fix, let's say you take, you smoke a spliff or whatever, you have to see that that's a temporary fix. And when you come off of that high or you come off of that trip that you've just had, you have to see that the problems are still going to remain. And you are next time going to need a bigger hit and a bigger hit and a bigger hit. Nobody goes and starts taking heroin as from the off. They all build up with soft drugs and it goes from one to the other until you find that they're taking heroin. Okay. And so I would say to anybody who is, involved in this, where are you going to stop? At what stage are you going to realize that what you're doing is just giving yourself a quick fix, but that quick fix never lasts, and the high that you reach, you stoop to a lower low than where you were before. And if you keep doing it, you're going to keep stooping lower and lower and lower and lower until you're going to find yourself like these people who are homeless on the streets and they're begging for money in order to go and buy drugs. You're going to find yourself like these people who go home and they steal from their mom. They steal from their father. They steal their jewelry and their wife's stuff, and they go and sell it in order to go and buy drugs. You find these people who get involved in drugs and gangs and racketeering in order to feed their habit. Where are you going to stop? Because you know, there was a time where these people who are the lowest of the low in terms of where they stand, they used to be okay. They used to be okay, but it was their friends. They were in a circle. Say, hey, just try it. Take a quick puff. You know, see what you think. Take a quick sniff, and one thing led to another, and they are where they are today. And we see it day in and day out. People are being ruined by this. When are you going to realize that the only way to attain true happiness is through Islam? You know, spoke about the moral compass. When are you going to realize that the moral compass should be found from the Quran and the Sunnah? That's the only absolute. In a world of changing goalposts and moving goalposts and changing moral compasses, the only absolute is the book and the Sunnah. When are you going to find that the happiness is from the Quran and the Sunnah? When are you going to find that the true friends are the ones who are upon the Quran and the Sunnah? Everything that a Muslim does, it needs to be referenced back to the Quran and the Sunnah. We can sit here and we can offer up practical problems and practical solutions, and we can talk till we're blue in the face, but it requires action. It requires taking those steps. You know what? I'm gonna cut off from these friends. I'm gonna not go to the shisha cafes anymore. I'm not gonna go to the local betting store. I'm not gonna go here. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna start, these balloons and stuff. It takes steps. Nobody can sit here and click a switch. If I had a switch and I could click it and everyone's problems would go away, I would give everything that I had for that. But it doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. Every person, he's gonna have that which he works for.
Yeah, I think it's a deep issue, and I think it required a very serious.
But we're not talking down. I want to make it clear. Well, I don't see myself or yourself as better than any of these people.
No.
These are trials and tests.
Look, we are just your brothers here. That we see your issues, and the issues that are plaguing our communities, and just trying to give some brotherly advice. So, there are experts in these fields and stuff on addictions and stuff like that. So if you obviously want to take from them, then that's better. But just take us. Look, we're just trying to give you our thoughts and our opinions on it. And may Allah make it easy for any of you and all of you that are going through these things. And bless you with good and righteous friends. It's a very difficult one. So I think we should conclude there.
I just want to remind, we spoke about friends. I just want to remind family members as well that if you know your brother or your sister, your son or your daughter or anyone else is going through some type of addiction to intoxicants, support them.
Don't just chuck them out.
Yeah, do things that will help them. And you have to sometimes try different tactics. Yeah, it's not as if you cut someone off, that doesn't always work. It can make them worse. Just help them though, because there's no one that's going to love that person more than a family member.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, right? So, just be more approachable, use ways in which that will help get this person a cure. If it means visiting professionals in the field, but also another professional in the field are going to be the imams of the masjid.
That's if they're not, imported imams.
Yeah,
I have a problem with imported imams.
You have a serious problem. Well,
maybe
there's an issue.
Maybe we
with them.
could talk about this in the future. But
generally, go to if you're in the right masjid, with
as long as your imam can relate to you.
Yeah.
If you've got an imam who is born in this country, he knows the problems that you're going through. He has experience of this. He has tasted these kind of things. And he's not absolutely unaware of them. He knows about what goes on in the clubs. He knows what happens in the shisha cafes. He knows what happens when you're with the boys and you're hotboxing in the car. These kind of things, a person who has understanding of this, he'll be able to give you advice from a different angle to somebody who hasn't experienced these things.
And those are the type of people that should be in a masjid, leading the masjid, and those are the people to go and reach out to as well for a different angle of things, because ultimately the will and the motivator here is going to come from your religion.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key message is look, relate everything back and go back and seek solace in Allah and in the religion of Islam. So
And don't think that you can
alhamdulillah.
have a sex change and then go and win at the Olympics.
Yeah, look, we've covered a few things. Let's conclude there.
Islam doesn't allow that.
No, it doesn't, of course not. But look, some of these podcasts are gonna get deep. Some are gonna get in depth. It's not always gonna be a laugh and a joke. There are other podcasts, comedy podcasts, if you want to listen to that. Some of them are going to be more lighthearted. Some of them more serious. Some of them touching on very serious issues which we believe are affecting our communities. So, if there is anyone that you know that's going through this, and maybe you can forward this on to them. And as Muslims, there's not many people talking about these issues, other than maybe a 5-minute segment of a khutbah here and there, if it's in English and you can even understand it. So yeah, barakallah feek. To all of you, barakallah feekum. Do you want to just add anything before we end?
خلاص نكتفي
I
بهذا القدر إن
don't
شاء
think there's anything to add on to it. I would just say that you guys are doing a good job. To the listeners and the viewers, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, like the video, and share it with those who you feel will benefit, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Right, we'll end there. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wassalamu alaikum.
الله.